Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 14, Episode 55. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Monday, Steelers Nation. This victory Monday as the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 16-10. Sunday at Paycor Stadium. Pittsburgh now 7-4 on the season, back in second place in the AFC North. Dave, I know there'll be caveats about the point totals and saltines and Ritz references, I'm sure, and all those things. But by golly, we saw an NFL offense yesterday, and I'm going to take it.
I tell you, you know me too well, don't you? You know, you try to steal my thunder here. Happy Victory Monday, and that was the Ritz crackers of, or that was a Ritz cracker of a 16-point performance by a Steelers offense for some time now. Now, obviously, you would have liked to have seen, or the point total could have been and probably should have been higher than that. But man, I'm excited to. The all 22 hasn't started dropping yet, but it should in a couple hours, and I can't wait to get to that, just for the sheer fact of a few things that I was able to pick out on the TV tape. And I know you're the same there, but look, another win. They're 7-4 now, and going back to last year at Dubai. What are they? 24-6 since the bye last year. No,
14, 7-2, 7-4.
Yeah, 14. Yeah, my math is, I'm trying to pour coffee in every hole that I have this morning. And another thing, I thought, if somebody came out of a coma right now and you had to explain this team being 7-4 in one tweet, I'm not sure you could adequately do that. But the record is their record, and they're the fifth seed. They're waking up the fifth seed in the AFC right now. Second place in the AFC North. You obviously have what you would think would be a very winnable game coming up on Sunday at home against the Arizona Cardinals. And back to what you said, I mean, it looked like an NFL offense for the most part in this game against the Bengals on Sunday. How you feeling this morning?
Feeling good overall. What a difference a week makes, and of course the coordinator change and the big gaudy stat line. While 16 points is nothing to generally write home about, 421 yards of offense. So in 44 games under Matt Canada, they hit 400 yards 0 times. The first game without him, they do it. Is that a coincidence? I think not. Now, I was somebody that wasn't as obsessed about the 400-yard mark as others were. I care about points more than I care about the actual yards. But to me, the word of the day, despite still missteps and miscues and negativity for the Steelers offense, is the word that Mike Tomlin used since he fired Matt Canada: fluidity. The offense had fluidity for maybe the first time all season.
Yeah, that can be their identity, at least for this game, right? Fluidity. We never knew that would be an identity, but it was. And there was a lot of things to get excited about. I think there was some we'll get into all this. It felt like there were a lot of tendency breakers. We saw 2 and 3 tight end sets. Don't have the charting back on that yet. But it stuck out like, very easily with 2 and 3 tight end personnel groupings in this game. Middle of the field throws. Look, I know overall, if you look at that picture, there's only 2 or 3 kind of middle of the field things, green dots showing up in there, but that might as well be 14. As far as I'm concerned there. It's stuff that we haven't seen. And, man, they opened up with one down the middle of the field to Pat Freiermuth there. I think Joe call that or ask for that? Or at least
on his take. Yeah.
Yeah, on his Saturday terrible take there. So kudos to him. And look, one of my 5 keys to the game that I wrote up on Saturday was got to say a mouthful. And boy, did they! I didn't envision that being that big of a mouthful, but they obviously utilized Pat Freiermuth a lot more in this game, and with great success on top of it. So, where would you like to begin?
Well, let's just backtrack very briefly to talk about what happened prior to the game and some players not playing in this one. Mika Fitzpatrick, Montravius Adams ruled out on Friday. That was announced after our podcast on Friday, but no big surprise there. It does sound like the team is hopeful. These players are that Mika Fitzpatrick will return for this upcoming Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. So we'll see what Tuesday Tomlin's presser brings, and of course Wednesday's actual practice report. Injury standpoint, in game seemed to be pretty healthy overall. George Pickens got the wind knocked out of him. He returned, finished the game. Calvin Austin had an ankle injury, according to Mike Tomlin, late in that game. It was never even announced by the team until Tomlin said something post-game. So we'll see where that stands on Tuesday. Other than that, seems to be pretty healthy overall. Quickly, from an inactive standpoint, notable names inactive. Anthony McFarland was inactive over Godwin Igwebuike getting the hat there. So that's interesting. To see Blake Martinez inactive. Darius Rush was active and played as the team's dime defender.
Yeah, and looking at the biggest surprise, at least to me, in this was the Godwin Igwebuike being active, and I think that was necessitated by them needing more special team snaps out of him altogether. He played 14 total special team snaps in this game, and that might be related to the lack of safety slash inside linebackers with what they wanted to do in some various areas there. So I think that's what ended up costing Anthony McFarland his helmet in this game. And it was really of the 6 players on the list this week, because obviously they had to have 6 inactives because of Tariq Carpenter being elevated on Saturday there. I believe that was probably what went into the decision making with the inactive list there. So not huge by any stretch of the imagination, but that's probably the reason why we saw Godwin up and McFarland down.
That makes a lot of sense. Good explanation there. All right, Dave, let's jump into this game again. Pittsburgh winning this one 16-10. Really strong offensive output, pass game, run game. To me, beyond fluidity, you can use the word balance for this offense. 33 pass attempts, 33 rush attempts, success with both. That's really what you're looking for. Thought Pickett was able to distribute the ball well to a bunch of people. I believe 8 players caught passes, or maybe I think 8 players had more than one reception, something like that. They ran for $153. Najee Harris, this was his day in the run game. So just overall, just a balanced offense that got big plays, pass game, big plays, run game, and just overall, I thought was efficient in both regards.
Alex, this team had 6 explosive plays in this game against the Bengals. We've talked about that quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and not only the lack of explosive plays, but how most of them were coming in the run game. Which, look, you're not gonna get any pushback from me on any time that you can get a run explosive play. But we talked about the lack of pass explosive plays and how you can't really be expected to lean on run explosive plays only. They had 4 passing explosive plays in this game of 43, 39, 29, and 24 yards in those 4. And then you add in, Najee Harris stacking up. I got to pull a Hines Ward and take my hat off and hand it to Najee Harris. 2 more explosive runs by Najee Harris in this game. One early that just, I can envision Chris Berman doing the highlight on that, motoring ahead through the pile there for 20 yards. And then he had one later in the game about the 5:58 mark, I think over to the left side there for 22 yards. So 2 more explosive runs for the team in this game. And more importantly, you had the 4 passing explosive plays, which was good to see. So 6 total explosive plays there really sticks out as far as why this offense had some success in this game. And the other thing, you know where I'm going with this, is the third downs, something that we've talked quite a bit about. 8 of 17 in this game overall, 47%. And within that is the stat that I had it pulled up last night. Something else we've talked quite a bit about that I thought really highlighted as the good game that Kenny Pickett had. Oh, where was it here? The third, I guess I'd labeled that a little bit different here. Let me see if I can find.
Well, I know his adjusted net yards per passing attempt was also where you want it to be, right?
Oh yeah, over 7. Yeah, with that, Kenny Pickett was 4 of 5 on third downs of 5 or fewer, with 4 first downs within that. So, we talked a bit about, look, not only does this offense need to convert more third downs, but we got to have these ones that are the 5 or fewer yards that we haven't been getting in the passing game specifically. Now, they have obviously converted some that, with the legs and with some scrambles and all, but this is one that will probably get kind of a stat that'll be kind of lost within all this because of them converting at a high rate. Because look, they did convert some long ones in this game as well too, and that, to me, that's stealing as well when you convert things of 3rd and 8 or more in this game, and they had a couple of those. But the fact that Kenny Pickett was 4 or 5 on third downs of 5 or fewer yards, with 4 of those with all 4 completions ending in first downs, really sticks out in this one. And I don't want to call it hidden yardage or a hidden stat, but I think that needs highlighting.
It does. I mean, the last 2 weeks combined, Pittsburgh was, what was the stat? They were 7 of 29 or 7 of 27 on third down. They were about 26% over the last 2 games. And take away the final kneel down in this Bengals game, they were 8 for 16, so 50%. I mean, that's just a turnaround right there. And not that maybe you want to have 16 third downs in a game, but you did have a lot of plays. You did possess the ball as much as you have in any game this season. So sometimes you kind of get those third downs because of it. But still, you converted, you moved the sticks, you sustained drives. That's the fluidity in which we talk about. There were no 3 and outs by Pittsburgh in this game. That has not happened the entire season. Only happened twice in Matt Canada's 44 games as Steelers OC. So again, not that every drive ended in points. Most of them did not. And there was negativity and things left on the table for sure. But you at least were able to possess the ball, drive the football, attempt to play a field position. Didn't always work out that way, but those were some of the benefits of at least extending some drives on paper. And then to go back to Najee Harris, Matthew Marksy wrote this morning. Apparently, he is tied for the league lead in explosive runs of 20-plus yards. Now, his long is 25 yards on the season, so a lot of them are in that very narrow range of 20 to 25. As Matthew writes, not all explosive runs are created equally, but just compared to last year's numbers and the run game in general, not getting those runs of 20-plus yards, to see that turnaround for Harris and for Jaylen Warren, that is a big turnaround. In this run game, it's just humming right now, Dave.
Yeah, look, I'll take it. Talked about Najee coming out of Alabama and the lack of percentage of explosive runs, and once again, you get an explosive run and technically in the NFL, you hear Mike Tomlin talk about explosive runs of being 10 or more yards and all like that, but 20 is significant, and anytime you get one of those, to me, I feel that's stealing, and kudos to him. And those were a couple of hard-earned 20-yard runs on top of it. Very, very physical runner. He was, between him and Jaylen Warren, he was the better back in this game against the Bengals. So, good to see that for sure from Najee.
And what was the stat for explosive pass plays in this game, right, Dave? And they had 3 in the last 4 games combined. That's what we talked about. So they had more in this game than they had in the last month.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something else to get excited about. Obviously a couple of those, they came in basically all areas of the field. You had 2 in the middle of the field, 2 Pat Freiermuth. You had one down the right sideline. I believe that was a third down throw, was it not, to Diontae Johnson against man coverage? And I believe the other one was a third down throw to George Pickens on a slot fade down the left side there. So that's exactly what you want to see.
Again, that's, to me, distributing the ball around to different people, to different areas. That's the mark of a well-rounded and balanced offense. So Kenny Pickett, one of his best games, probably his best game of the season, right up there, I think, with the Rams game. The numbers, again, are not overwhelming. 24-33, 278 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He does continue to take unbelievably good care of the football. 7 straight games without an interception. That is a single-season Steelers record. I believe he set the Steelers record for most consecutive pass attempts without a pick as well. So, of course, you want to see more touchdowns and more points, and those things have to be there. But if there's one thing you can consistently say positively about Kenny Pickett, he takes great care of the football.
Yeah, look, to go that long, you have to go all the way back to that game against the Texans, that deep shot down the middle of the field to, I think, Calvin Austin that Steven Nelson intercepted was the last time that he's thrown an interception. And we know how important taking care of the football is. And look, they obviously did have the one turnover in this game that we'll talk about here at some point, I'm sure. But to get your quarterback not throwing picks and to have that span of games, and specifically with him being able to push the football down the field more in this game, really, is something that you have to highlight.
Sure, because we talked last week, he threw no picks against Cleveland, but the offense felt so in a shell that it's like you almost wanted an interception because it might mean he's pushing the ball. In this game, you were able to push the ball, you were able to produce and have a nice performance, all while taking care of the football, which is ideally what you're looking for. Dave, I know we both have to go to the All-22 and kind of want to take a look at that, and we understand there were not any dramatic changes to this offense. Largely, it was the same types of plays and same play calls they've run before. But what felt different about this offense that allowed it to have probably its best actual performance of the season?
Tendencies, in my opinion. They ran a lot of, and I pulled something this morning that I threw in our Discord channel here. Heading into this game, it looks like this team used 13 personnel, which is 3 tight ends of all of 12 snaps this season. And they ran 11 times and passed 1 time out of those 12. 23 personnel, 2 backs, 3 tight ends. They've used 12 times. It looks like they ran all 12 times out of that, and 0-2 personnel, which I don't know. I didn't pick out any of that yesterday. Maybe is that victory? I don't know.
No, that would be just no backs, 2 tight ends.
Yeah, no backs, 2 tight ends.
Probably didn't use that.
I don't think they used that yesterday, but they ran that all 2 times. But I mean, there was significant usage of 3 tight end personnel groupings in this game, and not only that, they passed out of it as well too, and they were able to run some plays that they normally like to run out of those personnel groupings. So I think first and foremost, the personnel usage was something that sticks out in this game, and then how they use that personnel, different personnel groupings stuck out in this game. We saw obviously the use of Freiermuth more in the passing game stuck out in this one. We saw, I don't have the numbers on it, but it felt like less overall motion in this game, at least motion that was happening at the snap, and specifically with someone coming through the backfield. It just felt less spammy overall, and it felt more with purpose in this game.
You mean they didn't have Allen Robinson running sprints pre-snap for no discernible purpose? No, I think, they were just more selective, more of a purpose, more of a plan. To me, again, I have to watch the All-22. I really want to see them function out of 13 personnel. Connor Hayward, as you mentioned, seemed to kind of indicate they were doing, some stuff they would do out of 12 personnel or different personnel groupings, but out of 13. So being able to run the same concept at a different formation, different personnel grouping is kind of the mark of a good offense that can, make things look different for a defense, but for an offense, it's really just the same thing. That's ideally what you want to see. I saw Freiermuth occasionally split out in some of those looks. And so just kind of moving some of those pieces around, I think is interesting. Saw some more pistol in this game, some more downhill run action for Najee Harris, which I think is beneficial to him. How about play action? What did you say? 6 play actions in the first quarter of this game?
Yeah, it's either 6 or 7 play action plays in the first quarter of this game. Now, there was less in the second, but I think it was due to when they were possessing the football and all like that. And I didn't get into charting too terribly much the second half of this one, but I mean, look, it was evident right from the get-go that they were intending on using more play action in this game.
Yeah, from the very first snap of the game. You're going to have the false ski by pulling, say, a maul to get that linebacker to bite up a bit. They're playing too high behind. You hit Freiermuth down the seam for 24 yards. So those are things I just noticed off the top. I'm sure there'll be other things to look at. Again, some of the plays certainly were the same. You saw stuff that you were running the same stuff as you would under Canada. The playbook didn't expand, but just what you chose and how you used it and the game flow of it all. Again, a new person in there can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. Looking at, let's see here, negative plays overall. Let me take out the passes and, or let me eliminate. Let me just go with runs only here. They had just 3 runs in this game that went for no yards or negative yardage. So we talk about how negative plays, especially you go back to that, even that game against the Browns had how you had, what did I say, like 7 or so, or 8 or so of those run plays were negative plays in that game, even though you had a good rushing performance overall. The fact that you only had 3 negative run plays in this game by running back sticks out pretty huge in this one. Now, you did have a couple of sacks, obviously, that are negative plays, and I think a penalty or 2 or something like that.
Diontae running backwards early in that game.
Yeah, that's another one there. But just negative plays overall is something that we've highlighted several times, and it helps you obviously stay on schedule more when you're not having these.
Sure. Now, I understand the Bengals defense has not been strong this year. The Browns defense, of course, an elite tier group. Bengals closer to the bottom, but still, Pittsburgh, I'll take it against any opponent, given just the struggles that Pittsburgh has had. They've been a miserable offense, and so I'm just happy to see that success regardless of the opponent.
Absolutely. What else stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, just Pat Freiermuth with 9 catches for $120. I mean, that is a career day for him. The first Steelers tight end to go for 100 yards since Vance McDonald back in 2018. 9 receptions for Freiermuth is a career high for him, and more than he ever had at Penn State or in Pittsburgh. So just a big game for him, from literally the first play of the game, the 24-yarder, and then next drive they have 3rd and 13, same thing down the seam for 29 yards, and just taking what the defense gives you. They're going to play soft zone coverage. You sit down underneath, show the quarterback your numbers, and get 10 yards on 1st and 10. I think just for that, for even Darnell Washington, his lone reception finally came off of something other than boot action. He was able to sit down and a 5-yard curl and get 5 yards of yak because he's just such a big dude that's tough to take down. So saw a lot of kind of softer zone coverage, and I just thought this offense was in rhythm. And you made a comment on, I think, Friday's show about watching Ben Solak's for the Ringer, his breakdown of this offense. And sometimes the top of Pickett's drop would not really match up to where routes are breaking. And I was kind of watching that a bit more, just not in depth, but just watching back this game a bit. And you kind of saw on some of those concepts, Pickett top of the drop, hitch and throw, the ball would be out as soon as Pickett would reach the top of his launch spot there. And I just felt this offense was in a lot more rhythm in terms of where the footwork of the quarterback was, the drop of the quarterback was to where routes broke. And it just seemed like there was just, again, fluidity for this offense.
And look, the fact that Freiermuth was able to catch so many passes, look, the dirt linebackers are good. Pratt and Logan Wilson, and those guys can cover some ground. So I think that's another key area where play action and the ability to run the football really had those linebackers thinking about what they were going to do, especially in rundown situations there. And once again, I thought this could be, and I wrote about this in my Saturday Keys about how I thought, was a great opportunity to get Pat Freiermuth. They went into this game with 30 receptions out of the tight ends in total. And obviously Pat Freiermuth has missed a lot of time this season here, but they had 9, 10, 11, 12 receptions out of their tight ends in this game. So nearly matched half of what they had on the season in tight end receptions. And when you have receivers that are going to get the attention like Diontae Johnson and George Pickens have been getting throughout the season here, it's important to, when you get into these games, that you're probably going to see a lot of zone. We've talked about that as well too, how you're seeing these defenses probably playing a lot more zone against Kenny Pickett. It's important to take advantage of these opportunities with your tight ends in this game, and they did that for sure.
And in terms of yardage, what percentage of yardage for the season from the position comes from this game? I mean, it's got to be close to half, I mean, 120 for Freiermuth, 11 for Hayward, 10 for Washington. That's $141 from your tight ends in this game alone. You probably had about 200 yards receiving in this game, coming into this game on the entire season.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and now you've got that on tape, and that gives opposing defenses something to think about right now. It's not just past 5 yards outside the numbers, in this game. That we saw, something else that stuck out. We talked, you hit on it about, Allen Robinson. A lot of times we have seen Allen Robinson when he's coming in motion, it's a run play, right? And generally to the side that he's motioning to. A couple of times during this game, they sent Allen Robinson in motion, and he continued on, and you get the quick flare out to him.
And a completion to him for 11 yards, I believe, on the one. But yeah, it just goes back to me distributing the ball to different people. I know coverage will dictate sometimes where the ball goes, but you have Freiermuth with 9 catches, Warren has 3, Pickens has 3, Diontae has 4, Connor Hayward 2, Robinson 1, Washington 1, Calvin Austin 1. I just didn't see that stuff before, where the ball was really just kind of being moved more. Again, I go back to that word fluidly to different people in different situations. You had middle of the field shots, you had sideline shots, you had short stuff, you had your boot game, your zone beater kind of game, sitting down underneath, almost tank concepts. It just felt like, I know it's for any other franchise, it'd be okay. That's basic NFL offense. But for Pittsburgh, it's like finally you kind of see the foundational level of NFL offenses and how they should run, and you can hopefully build off of that.
You even had a dump off to Jalen Warren that gained a few yards in this one.
Yeah.
Over to the left side.
What play was that? Left side? 15 yards. Yeah. So just really, just like to see the ball being spread around by Kenny Pickett, and that's going to produce usually more often than not good outcomes for your offense. But of course, Dave, the run game still the bread and butter for this team. Najee Harris for 99 was over 100 briefly, but then lost a couple yards late in that game. But still, take that, a touchdown for him. Jalen Warren, a quieter game, but they're not all going to be home runs. I think we're a bit spoiled by the last couple of weeks of what Warren was doing. 13 for 49, still ran just fine in this game. And as you said, made some plays out of the backfield. The fumble, of course, was costly. Should we pause here and kind of talk about that sequence of the Diontae almost touchdown and then the Jalen Warren fumble and Diontae and all that?
Sure.
All right. So Pittsburgh driving. Looks like Kenny Pickett on a post route hits Diontae Johnson for a touchdown, but the refs ruled it incomplete. The cornerback knocking the ball away as Johnson was going to the ground. Gene Steratore, the rules analyst for CBS and former NFL ref, believed that likely would have been a touchdown had it been challenged by Mike Tomlin. Tomlin was asked about why he did not challenge it, said he lost vision of where the ball was at and vision of that play being so far away from him. And of course, being on the road, you did not get the replay from the stadium there. So what was your take on the incomplete ruling and the lack of a challenge by Mike Tomlin?
First and foremost, I understand, I guess, why Mike Tomlin didn't challenge that because of, I guess no replay in the stadium there, but isn't somebody upstairs watching TV or something like that? And could you have called a timeout there, maybe to wait for to at least see a TV replay in that? Second of all, I respect, the heck out of Gene Steratore, but let's remember that he knows his audience. I'm not trying to take anything away. He's on, and he's probably on 90, not 93.
Is he on the fan? Does he not go on the fan?
Not on the fan. He's on DVE radio. Probably on there right now talking about it. Quite honestly, he knows his bread and butter as well. He knows his audience. Could this be a surviving the ground kind of issue here, or continuation issue here? I mean, there's no doubt that he gets two or three feet down in this one. I just wonder if this is. I'll say this: it would have been worth a challenge, I think.
Well, there is no survive the ground element because of the end zone. Once he has possession and the 3 feet down, that's a touchdown right there, no matter what happens going to the ground. I think the question is, did he have that 3rd foot down? I believe that's why it was ruled incomplete, because the ref's interpretation was that he did not have that that 3rd foot down, I should say, before the ball got jarred out.
Once again, I'm not sure it gets overturned here, and I understand Mike Tomlin's explanation of why they didn't get a good look at it there. I would have had no issue had they called maybe timeout there to get a better look at it, then maybe challenge it. At least
but if you call timeout and then challenge and then lose the challenge, you've just lost 2 timeouts early in that game. So I think there was some time to review it. There was kind of, it wasn't like they quickly ran the next play or anything. So maybe they could have gotten a look. I'm okay with the no challenge, just given, it was, who knows what a catch is in today's NFL? Like nobody knows. So you had 3rd and 2 coming up. You didn't predict a fumble. I was okay with the no challenge. I'm still okay with the no challenge.
All right. I would have been fine had they challenged it. I'll just leave it at that. Once again, I don't know about the continuation of it, because he does get that thing kind of the continuation of the rip down on it and loses possession of it. But it's that sequence. The next play obviously is what really was a killer or added insult to injury on, and that was a double Dino concept, wasn't it? On that, wasn't it two post on that? Wasn't Allen Robinson the other one on that?
I'll have to go back and check. I honestly do not remember. I just want to note really quickly before you talk about the Warren play. I know Sterator said he thinks it would have been overturned, and of course he's a former ref. But the Football Zebras website, which religiously tracks officiating and calls and those stuff as well as anybody on the outside. Their interpretation was Tomlin would have likely lost the challenge had he tried to throw the red flag on that one. So I think it would have been a coin flip had he been able to overturn that call had he challenged it.
Did he say why? I forgot to check. And we've referenced Football Zebras a few times in this.
They didn't really say why. They just said they looked at the play and felt like there wasn't enough, because at that point you have to now have enough evidence to overturn the call. And the weight of that probably would not have been enough there to actually change the call. It might have just stood had they reviewed it.
All right. The outcome of that aside, it was a money ball by Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and it was a great route by Johnson, get separation, and just has to finish. And to his credit, Johnson said after, you just have to finish the play. Even if he had that 3rd foot down, don't give the ref any ammunition to potentially overturn that call and call it incomplete. You have to finish that play.
Yeah, and boy, that would have changed the complexion quite a bit there, especially what happened on the next play, because you had went a 10-play drive on the second possession of the game, and then to have it back-to-back end in the way that incompleted pass was to Diontae, and then obviously the Jaylen Warren fumble that followed.
Yeah, so 3rd and 2, Pittsburgh runs it left side with Jaylen Warren. He fumbles, going to the ground. Ball bounces away, recovered by the Bengals, and returned a long way as well. And great point by you, Dave, to give props to Connor Hayward for making that tackle, because if he doesn't, that's almost certainly going to be a touchdown the other way. And who knows what the outcome of that game looks like from there. But the attention is going to Diontae Johnson on that play, who, it's 3rd and 2. He just kind of walks off the line, which, to be fair, that happens. You see receivers do that from time to time. But as the ball's bouncing around him, he's oblivious to it, never runs at all, even when other guys are running the other direction. Johnson, until we see, from what I can tell, we'll see what the All-22 says, but never appears to run at all. And that's, of course, been called into question for his effort and lack of awareness.
I would imagine there's quite a coaching teaching moment there within that from several aspects, not only the way Diontae performed on that play or didn't perform, but the way Connor Hayward performed on that play. Never assume anything, because look, you have a guy that had speed, and they pointed that out on the TV broadcast there. If Connor Hayward's not chasing that, end up making a tackle, that's a touchdown the other way, in my opinion.
I agree. Now, Johnson said post-game he never saw the football, and maybe he didn't. I don't know how he couldn't have seen that something was going on, considering the action around him. But even as players are running the other direction, from what I can tell from the TV view that we have, Johnson never even started to give the appearance of running the other way. He just kind of walked and watched the world go by. So even if you want to grant him that he never saw the football, once he realized that something was happening, there was no effort to even try to get involved and into the play.
Looking at a headline, I guess this is either First Take or Get Up on my screen right now. Big bold letters said "down on Diontae," and at that point of the game, right there on that fumble, it was real easy to be down on Diontae, because you obviously don't catch the. Well, it started with him running backwards on one of those catches that he had. I think that was a player. I think it was earlier in that drive, was it not? Or was it on the first drive? I forget. But I think at that point he had to run backwards at that point. Then you have the failure to secure the football in the end zone like that. And then the very next play, you have, the noticeable lack of effort, or looks like lack of effort on the fumble there. So within a matter of the first however many plays in the game, I think that was at that point, 14, you had three negatives associated with him. Now, to his credit, and look, I'm not going to, I think Diontae, when he's on, can be a great player for this team. We've seen it time and time again. Things like this, and then look, we can rewind this back to what reportedly happened in the locker room after the Browns game, right? We haven't even hit on that, because that news wasn't even out there when we recorded the podcast last time. But the kind of the blow up in the locker room, and him and Minka having to be separated, and that kind of thing there. You have that stuff, and then you turn around and you have the three things that happened within the first 14 plays of the game. It's not a great look overall. Now, once again, I'm not going to sit here and defend Diontae, other than saying at least throughout the rest of the game, he made some plays.
He did bounce back. He had a couple of great catches. That one sideline grab, which was a great ball by Kenny Pickett, the third down in the fourth quarter to get 12 on 3rd and 9 over the middle. A really nice snag. The ball was maybe a little bit low, a little bit away. It had to be a pure hands catch for Diontae, reaching down to grab it, and he did. So kudos to him for that. He's just a guy that he gets in these swings. He stacks bad plays. I think part of the reason why he was so just kind of listless on that fumble was he's still in his head about the play before, and he just has to have a short-term memory. And I've seen this before with drops back in 2020 or 2021, where he just stacks things and things get in his head. But sure, if you're going to be the guy that chirps and wants the ball and says you're open and you can't make these plays, you got to back it up. And he did do that in the second half. But early in that game, for all the frustration that he showed the week prior, and as you said, Adam Schefter reporting that after the game, Johnson was apparently chirping coaches to the locker room, and then Minkah Fitzpatrick intervened. Those two got into a, quote, heated argument. Had to be broken up by Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. Johnson downplayed it, speaking to reporters after the Bengals game yesterday, said it was all overblown, everything's good. They squashed it, which they probably did. These things can happen from time to time. But point is, if you're going to chirp and say, hey, get me the ball, you better make plays when they get you the football.
Yeah, and then on top of that, it is disappointing to see him jump on Twitter after the game, too.
Which I'm not even sure what he was trying to say. And I can't interpret his comments. They seemed a little off kilter.
Look, just lay low and go home and relax and enjoy the W, man. Right. The way he stacks these plays, and then kind of his attitude afterwards, like this on social media, that really sours people. And once again, I think he can be. We've seen him. He's a phenomenal player. He's one of the best separators in the NFL. But sometimes I think he gets in his own way too much.
I agree. He's a really talented player. He's made some unbelievable plays, and he's a great separator, great route runner. When he is at his best, he is tough to stop, but there's just too many swings and too many stacking of bad plays, and sometimes he can be his own worst enemy.
Just stop caring so much about what insignificant people like us tweet and say and all like that. Don't worry about that stuff. And once again, I would imagine there's quite a teaching moment within what happened early in that game.
Sure. All right, Dave, moving on from that, other thoughts for the offense here? Anything we haven't addressed so far?
I wanted to ask you this.
Sure.
It's hard to kind of set this up because you cherry pick quite a bit, but outside of the two middle of the field throws to Pat Freiermuth, the two deep ones outside to Diontae, and I'm not trying to downplay these. I'm just trying to find the next one on the list because he dropped that one right in the bucket to Diontae, and how good was it to see that slot fade work? Because they've tried to hit that a couple of times to George Pickens over the season. I mean, how good was it to see him? Kenny drop that one in there? Take away those four throws, all right, or move past those four throws. What was the next? And I don't know how much time you were able to spend on this last night. What was the most impressive throw past those four?
Trying to think. I'd have to go back through it. I mean, again, I think some of this was the Bengals were playing softer coverage because they were missing their top corner, Cam Taylor-Britt, and so they kind of kept things in front. I mean, again, Diontae had to reach for it a bit, but that completion to him on 3rd and 9, fourth quarter, you got a real heavy pressure look in front. I thought Pickett did struggle against pressure and those sim looks on 3rd down overall, but to stand tall and throw a mostly accurate football that was catchable in that situation to convert on 3rd and 9 was a pretty important play.
I didn't even have that one circled. The one that I had circled was where did it go?
I'm sure there's another one. I'm just trying to think back to
that. It was either a 2nd or 3rd down throw over to the left side with one of those picks. Kind of rub offs in the situation there. Where was that? 3rd and 6 in the 3rd quarter, 3:26 left, over to the left side there. That was the one where I think Dax Hill was closely guarding Pat Freiermuth over there on the sideline. Kenny Pickett put it on him over there on the sideline. Once again, it was kind of a continuation of a rub off, but there still wasn't a lot of great separation on that. And Kenny Pickett put it right on. That was a 3rd and 6 from the Bengals 25. If you don't convert there, you're kicking a field goal right there. But instead, they got the 1st down, and 3 plays later, they got the touchdown.
That was the out route to the sideline, right. Whatever it was, right? Okay, yeah, and that's why I was a little less concerned, a little less hyper-focused on middle of the field and more on just get the ball to other guys than just Pickens and Johnson. And that's a great example of that. They had a couple of out routes to Freiermuth, I think, on 3rd down or stuff that picked up, decent yardage. So, yeah, that's a great pull by you. That's probably a better throw than what I suggested from Kenny Pickett in a big-time moment.
And I know Ross McCorkle's listening to this, or Ross McCorkle, and I don't want to influence this in any way. And I'm open to a lot of pushback here on this. Was that the turning point of the game? Could that throw and conversion on 3rd and 6 to Pat Freiermuth be a turning point in the game? Obviously, you don't know how the game's going to play out at that point, but it was. What was the score at that point? It was 7-3, right?
Yes, I believe so.
All right. So if you don't convert there on 3rd and 6, you're kicking the field goal and you're down 7-6, and you're really disappointed because at that point, I mean, that ended up being a 14-play scoring drive at that point.
Yeah. Although I think the turning point will do Ross's job for him was the Trenton Thompson interception because the Bengals were driving and that led to that long touchdown drive that Pittsburgh had.
All right. Well, at least offensively, that might have been the turning point of the game. And I'm adding qualifiers there. But going back through the TV tape and matching it up with the play-by-play sheet and all, I found that, once again, I'm not diminishing the other 4 throws that Kenny Pickett made that were all explosive plays. I was just trying to find out what was the next less obvious money throw that Kenny Pickett made in that game.
A critical play, nonetheless, to convert on third down, a bugaboo for this offense, really throughout the entire season, but specifically the last 2 weeks in particular. So again, throw away the end game kneel down, 8 of 16 on third down, 50%. That is where you want to be as an offense.
That's huge.
Again, 16 third down attempts, maybe a bit too much, but 8 conversions, I'll sign up for that.
Let's talk about the Najee Harris touchdown.
Do you think there was holding on Darnell Washington? Chris Hoke apparently pretty adamant there was holding, and he can't believe that the refs did not penalize Washington.
Yeah, I kind of see where he's coming from.
I don't know.
There. Now, look, at one point there that the hands are hidden inside. And anytime that you can get those hands locked inside, good on you. And less likely to get, just for the fact that you're able to get those hands inside like that. But I'm not trying to diminish or take away here, but I was, especially with there being laundry on the field there, I was really surprised they picked it up.
They did throw the flag, right? And they picked it up. That was interesting to see that conversation, what that would have been like. Yeah, I mean, it might have been, but I'm not going to complain. I'll take some breaks. The Steelers offense could use a break every now and then.
Right. And look, you can go through this game. I think there was obviously a couple of holds on the Steelers that did get called. Now, obviously, you're talking about a significant play on a touchdown in this situation here. But I was a bit surprised they didn't leave that yellow on the field there. I'll just leave it at that. Outside of that, though, and I have not seen, I don't know if PFF has updated the grades yet. Darnell Washington really looked good in the blocking aspect of this game.
Yeah, and they played him a lot, 37 snaps, I believe. I'll check if the grades are up. I don't believe they are, but usually those come in a bit later on the day. Let me just try to pull it up here. If PFF will want to load, but 37 snaps for Washington in this game. PFF taking a second. I don't know. Just I'll vamp it and talk through it. But no, Najee Harris overall,
they're not up.
Okay. Najee Harris overall in this game ran just really hard. I mean, he was just dragging defenders with him, really kind of the Najee Harris game. So that's why, you have a committee approach. Some games it'll be the Jaylen Warren show. Some games it'll be the Najee Harris show. You have 2 talented backs that can win, that can churn out tough yardage, that can mirror the identity and what the personality of this team wants to be. So I've said it. I'll say it again. I'm happy both guys are in Pittsburgh. They're both assets to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and we saw, going back to that third down throw to Diontae Johnson there. It's good. Kenny really felt comfortable, a lot more comfortable recognizing what he was seeing, and the fact that they get a middle of the field completion running out in space in that situation was a pretty key moment too.
Yeah, for sure. So any other thoughts here offensively? The offensive line, I mean, the run blocking obviously seemed, strong. I don't have maybe one person in particular to stand out with. Maybe some issues with the tackles in pass pro a tiny bit. Broderick Jones had some issues around the edge against Miles Murphy, the rookie. I know the holding call he got flagged on. That's partially because Pickett's rolling to his right and you're trying to react to it, and you have a higher tendency for holding calls to exist in those moments. So I don't know if I would completely blame Jones for that, but just overall, maybe Jones didn't have his best game in pass protection.
I would agree, and I would think that your interior guys are probably going to grade out a little bit better, especially in the pass protection aspect of this game than the tackles did. Did we see some dart with Moore going the other way in this one?
We did at least one snap of a dart play, the backside tackle, in this case, Moore pulling left to right.
So there's a little bit of a switch up. We mostly have seen Broderick Jones coming the other way.
Mostly. They have done it with Moore, at least on one occasion this year. And they were doing it in camp a lot. They just, weren't doing it until Jones kind of became the starter. So Yeah, I don't know how many guys we saw pulling in this game overall. We saw a little bit of that with Moore. Did they pull the guards much in this game? Do you think they?
I didn't hyper focus on that through the TV tape run through last night, but there were at least a couple plays where I think where you saw that happen. Once again, I thought the run blocking as a whole was good by this line.
Yeah, so overall, got the job done. That Bengals D-line stuff, I mean, those guys make some plays. Hendrickson and Hill was available, and
they had Hubbard back.
Yeah, and Murphy off the edge. They're top rookie. So there's talent up front. No shame in losing a couple of reps there. Any other final thoughts? Really, to me, the question is, okay, talk about this offense, 421 on offense, yardage, Pickett fluid, great on third down. Why only 16 points?
Yeah, that's goes back to we got to score more points here. And obviously you left one touchdown on the field there with the Diontae Johnson one that you should have had. I mean, if you would have told me ahead of this game, let's assume that they get that touchdown in that situation in a game, 23 points would have been more than enough to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, 16 was, but yeah, 23 would have been.
Right. So you left that one red zone trip on the field, so to speak, there. So that made the huge difference in your scoring.
Yeah, Pittsburgh 1 of 4 in the red zone. There's one negative number. To be 1 of 4 in the red zone is an ugly number.
Right, but at least they did possess the football, and I like those 3 and out kneel downs. I could get used to that.
Yeah, but again, why only 16 points? I think there was so much negativity in this game, whether that's the Johnson, incompletion followed by the Warren fumble, to some sacks, some penalties, just some drive killers that are tough to overcome. So while the running game did not produce a negativity, as you said, there was negativity in the passing game. Right. That created a problem, and then of course the Warren fumble is not a negative play in yardage, but a negative play in outcome.
Boy, they like to continue to buck some of these things statistically. What did I say? Kenny Pickett, Justin net yards. Let's see. Kenny Pickett posted a 7.66. Man, hang that one in the Louvre. Kenny Pickett posted a 7.66 adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat on Sunday, and even with no TD passes and being sacked twice. That's hard to do.
I was going to ask last quarterback to do that.
I don't know. I'd have to look. I mean, I'm sure it's probably happened a lot more than what we think. But and look, where else was his average depth of completion target in this one? 6.4 air yards per completion average, which isn't by any stretch of the imagination huge, but it's a lot better for him in this one. I think his intended air yards was something like 8.4 or something like that overall. So and obviously didn't turn the football over and got sacked twice. But for him not to throw any touchdowns in this game and to be sacked twice for, I think, 10 yards in this game, to still put up a 7.6 adjusted net yards per passing attempt number, let you know that he was pushing the football down the field in this one, or at least getting the run after the catch, yada, yada.
I know it can be a little cliche and trite to say he was playing with more confidence, but I think he was, or at the least he was a lot more decisive in this game. He just felt more comfortable with where to go with the football, and they got into a rhythm. And again, it just felt like the offense was running a lot smoother than it had been virtually all season.
Right. And look, we've talked. You keep going back. We got to go back to third downs. Third downs were very significant in this game. Not only just third downs overall, but the third downs with 5 or fewer yards, just magnificent. Yeah.
It was. All right, flipping over to the Steelers. I need
another pot of coffee here.
We're both. Hey, it's a victory Monday that we'll take it overall. Going over to the Steelers defense here, to me, not that it was any shock, but the goal was to contain that Bengals run game, make Jake Browning in his first career start, make some plays, try to win that game. They did not just minimize that Bengals run game. They took it away. I mean, they rushed for 25 yards. Cincinnati didn't have a single rushing first down in this game. I mean, there was nothing with the run game. And I think maybe the best mark you can say about this defense is what TJ Watt said after the game was, the defense spent a lot of time on the bench. 41 plays the Bengals ran from scrimmage in this game. That's the fewest that Pittsburgh has had allowed, I guess, an opponent has run against them the entire season. It's one of the lowest marks of the last 2 decades. So just for this team to possess the ball offensively, and then when the defense was on the field, they won on third down, they shut down the run game, did not allow the big play. You're going to win those games.
The Bengals try to Steelers the Steelers.
win ugly.
In this one. And look, you even look at Jamar Chase had 4 catches for 81 yards. 2 of those came on just, unlucky pass tip situations in here. And look, kudos to him. I mean, that he's paid his money too, right? So definitely good on him that he had the wherewithal to grab a couple of those tip passes. Do the Steelers need to start drafting a little bit these a little bit taller inside linebackers? Because Michael Walker got up a little bit. What's Michael Walker go? 6'2", 6'2" and something.
Let's see. Whatever it was, need another inch there probably. But what is Walker's height? Maybe we can.
I'm saying
6'3".
Okay, what I'm saying here is normally the Steelers like those 6'1" guys, and I'm not sure I'm not sure one of those guys gets up and gets to that. In other words, I was glad to see him get up and especially as close as he was to the line of scrimmage in that situation of being drawn up, getting the hand on the football. Just the unfortunate part was it landed in Jamar Chase's hands, and the other one was that was Casey coming flying.
Casey. He should have picked that one.
Yeah.
Casey should have the pick.
Yeah, I bet he's kicking himself on that one there. But once again, 2 of the 4 receptions to Jamar Chase came that way. The other one, he earned that one and down the right sideline there. And that was overall really good coverage, I thought, by Joey Porter Jr. And, he even tried to get the hand, up last minute there. And look, the other guys are paid to make plays as well, too. And I just chalked that up to a good receiver won that one in a contested catch situation overall. But I mean, he was your they kept. We talked about Tyler Boyd and having to keep him contained because obviously, look, they were without T. Higgins in this game, and that was a big blow to them overall. But they kept Tyler Boyd in check overall on his 3 catches. Trying to think what else kind of point to make here. One of those Mixon catches late in the game, the 39-yarder you pointed out late last night there that the Steelers only had 10 guys on the field in that situation there.
Missing Darius Rush, who was out there for the next snap. So that's one reason why that run went for so long, but ultimately did not hurt the Steelers. Yeah, Chase, no back-breaking plays. Nobody else stepped up. They got the 1 play action to sample in the left flat where Pittsburgh was out of position and he, had a lot of room to put that ball in the end zone. But again, not a lot of stuff really hurt you. Just to go back to Joe Mixon, his stat line, 8 carries, 16 yards along a 4. I mean, you take that all day. If you tell me they're going to run for 25 yards and Browning's going to have to win that game, you roll that dice and you're pretty confident in that situation. So I thought the pressure was a bit more consistent. You sacked Browning 4 times. The interior D-line got more of a push to help collapse that pocket. That was critical. And then the big interception by Trenton Thompson. I think that is a turning point of the game. Bengals driving. They're at Pittsburgh's 18. And then Thompson jumping the curl route into the flat, picking that one off, leads to the Najee Harris touchdown the other way to get Pittsburgh the lead. Trenton Thompson, man, kudos to him. He's impressed since he got signed mid-camp. He got signed, that's why there's no camp bodies, because he got signed when the safeties all were all hurt. Corey Trice went down for the year. Thompson came in. He impressed in camp. He's got size. He hits. He can cover. Had a pick in the preseason. He's active around the football. And against the Browns last week, he dropped that one on Cooper on the sideline. He did not drop this one, made up for that mistake, and that was a big-time play.
Absolutely. And, I think a thing that sticks out with him, at least on the tape, is he does a great job of coming up and breaking down and making tackles in space. Yeah,
he described himself a couple weeks ago as a well-rounded player, and I agree. He does kind of everything well, but he's aggressive, and he read that play, and he took his chance. He was going for the football the whole way. Browning never saw him, and to jump that one out there in the flat, yeah, just a big time splash play.
Absolutely, right when they needed it too, down in the Steelers' own end of the field. Joey Porter Jr. Spent a lot of time traveling with Chase. What was it? Something like 90% of the snaps or something like that. He followed Chase around.
Yeah, I forget the exact stat. It was a lot though. He was certainly shadowing him. So there was no question about Pittsburgh's game plan.
They did a good job with getting pressure overall, mostly with 4-man situation. Another unfortunate thing, the first half of this game, the Steelers were winning the game at halftime, but they weren't winning the game.
Where you said it was Steelers beating Steelers at half.
Yeah, you had Chandon Sullivan come through. How did he not get the sack on Browning on that one there? And then to follow it up, TJ Watt gets the penalty on the back end of that there. That was obviously unfortunate in that situation there. Here's something I have a pretty big takeaway about. Alex, I don't know about you, but I would probably try to block TJ Watt sometimes.
It's a bold strategy. That's why we're paid the big bucks. But yeah, that 3rd and 3 late in the game, I think though, honestly, that nickel blitz by Sullivan influenced the tackle on the tight end, because Sullivan came in and they still should have picked up Watt, obviously, but I think it kind of screwed with their eyes a bit where this guy came in late and they timed it well and Watt came free. But yeah, leaving TJ Watt unblocked, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, I'm going to call that something that they might want to focus on, any team for that matter.
That rematch, yeah, the coaching point for the rematch later this year.
Let's see here. Watt, the other sack, having to go through 2 people, was impressive on that. Cameron Hayward getting him one in this game, and wanted to make sure that TJ Watt does not get that one.
You think they're going to change that? Do you think they're going to split that sack?
Well, look, just from the quick rundown on TV tape, I think Hayward was there enough. If anything, they split that one, but hopefully they don't. In that situation there, Ogunjobi doing a good. They talked about getting their hands up in this quick passing game. Especially coming out of the Browns game, you saw one instance of Larry Ogunjobi not getting home and getting hands up for a pass, bat down. That was good to see. Nick Herbig, boy, that guy can go from point A to point B in a hurry on that sack. There drops into coverage on that one, sees Browning rolling out, and boy, he got home quick on that sack.
Shot out of a cannon, and he just I love the mentality of, okay, I'm not going to let this dude just run around Browning and just try to, find a play. I'm going to go attack him and not try to figure out what he's going to do and react to it. I'm going to go make the play. And it's funny, both of his sacks this year have come in plays where he either dropped into coverage or was supposed to drop into coverage. That first one against the Rams, he was supposed to drop. He just ended up blitzing and got the sack because of it. So I love that mentality. And yeah, that dude came in like a bolt of lightning to take down Browning.
And he only played, and this goes back to something we said earlier here, he only played 3 snaps in this game. But when he's on the field, he's not playing a lot of snaps. But when he's on the field, he's making a key play.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm not as upset about the lack of rotation, because when the Bengals have 41 plays in total, then obviously you guys are fresh and there's not a concern about rotation. So this is okay. But yeah, I mean, Herbig, since the bye, how many snaps has he played? I mean, he's the production, like on a per snap basis, he might be the most productive edge rusher in football right now. Since the bye, he's played, I don't know, 35 snaps or so. He's got 2 sacks. He's got 4 forced fumble. He's got 3 tackles for a loss. And yeah, I mean, that's remarkable.
Trying to think what else. Did you notice a couple of times in the TV tape and go, I didn't know, maybe you noticed this more live than I did, but I noticed that fact. And this is something that I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves moving forward here, but they were able to isolate a Landon Roberts outside on the edge with a running back a couple of times. Is that something that we're going to have to pay attention to more moving forward?
In the pass game you're talking about? They went empty a couple times and they put the back out. So sometimes if you're in man, you're going to match with him with the linebacker. So yeah, I mean, I noticed that a few times, but nothing consequential.
Nothing came out of it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And I thought he still made some plays. I thought even Highsmith and Watt and Robertson coverage, those guys made plays. Watt had like 2 tackles in coverage. So
Watt came down on one of those on either a second or third down, I think, over to his side. Came down and blew that up pretty quickly.
Yeah, so those guys that maybe aren't normally dropping into coverage or aren't known for the coverage, kudos to Roberts. We kind of criticized him for not being a cover guy. He's covered extremely well in some more short areas, but still, he's done a really, really nice job. So kudos to him for that. But yeah, we'll see how much he gets tested going forward.
And they obviously didn't push the football down the field. I thought Browning was bailing out of a couple of pockets in this game, or a couple situations where maybe I thought he could climb up in the pocket and didn't. But they obviously their goal in this game was, once again, kind of like the Steelers like to do, try to not make any mistakes and any critical errors, get the ball out as quickly as you can. And, obviously they didn't have much of a run game to lean on. And you had to know, as is the case every week, that the Steelers defense were going to come into this game trying to shut down Joe Mixon, and they did.
Yeah, since Cam Hayward's return, this run defense has really tightened up, and hopefully get back Minkah Fitzpatrick next week, and you're gonna have your run guys back. Whenever Minkah comes back, let's assume it's next Sunday. Who starts opposite of him? Will it still be Trenton Thompson? I'm leaning that way.
Have they used him more free or strong?
No, he's been more of a strong safety.
Okay.
And I don't think Casey's free safety. He's a hitter, but he's not really a box type. I think it'll be Thompson and Minkah until Neal returns.
I think you might be right there. Yeah.
He's earned it.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been too big for him.
Any other thoughts here defensively?
They can move. They can rotate both those guys as well too. I think they trust Thompson enough to move into the middle of the field sometimes.
Yeah, and Casey will still play in dime. If Casey's your dime defender, which was the case last year, you're really happy with that package.
And I think a couple of times in this game, you'll see Patrick Peterson even sprint back to middle of the field.
Yeah, I know he did at least on one occasion. And they're traveling more, not only just Porter, of course, on top receivers, but you're seeing a lot of teams in recent weeks do these 2x2 sets. They'll have twin receivers to one side, 2 receivers to the other side, and you're seeing Pittsburgh now travel and put Peterson or occasionally Porter over slot. And so you didn't always see that in the past, maybe partly because Minkah would often roll down and play slot, roll in those kind of looks, and him being out, he may change things up a bit. But I have noticed a trend in the NFL to go 12 personnel, 2 tight ends to one side, 2 wide receivers to the other side, usually the open side of the field, and see how defenses defend you.
I didn't pay attention much in the TV tape to Darius Rush. What did you see out of Rush in his usage? He didn't play a lot of snaps overall. 8 or 9, I think.
All dime packages. Nothing incredibly notable. He was supposed to be out there for that one snap, right. So want to make a note there. But yeah, for a rookie to come in and get those situational snaps, that's a good learning experience.
All right. What else from the defense stuck out?
I think that's probably all my initial thoughts here, Dave. So there is kind of one ugly mark for this game: special teams not at its finest. And I made the point, and I think Mike Tomlin talked about it after the game, that field position, that battle Pittsburgh was losing pretty routinely, especially in the first half of this one, not downing punts, allowing long kickoff returns, penalties that negated punt returns, those types of things. From a pure punting and kicking standpoint, Boz and Harvin looked just fine, but the other stuff I thought was really allowing Cincinnati to hang around in that game.
Yeah, that first punt, we talked about that last night in our Discord chat there. There's no way you can't let that. You've got to have the wherewithal of where you were at on the field. You got to make sure that gets down inside the 5 in that situation.
Yeah, you just have to be able to down that one. There's no question about that.
And then the squib kickoff, right, was the one that they returned quite a ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know exactly what the issue was on that one, but kick coverage has been a little bit shakier lately.
And then you had a couple of special teams penalties, didn't you? Didn't Mark Robinson have one?
Mm-hmm. Austin had a pretty decent run back, and that got wiped out, which has happened a couple times this year.
And then I think
Carpenter,
what was one that got called there. So not a bad outside. Boz did what he's supposed to do, and I think Harvin punted pretty well overall, don't you think?
Yeah, I thought his punts were money. Just unfortunately, there were 2 touchbacks, which is more on the coverage unit than it is on, I think, Harvin there. I have a stat of the weird I do want to mention about Chris Boswell, because he has been just automatic, especially against the Bengals, including the playoffs in his career. Boswell is 43 of 45 against the Bengals on field goals. That's 95.6%. In the regular season, Boswell's field goal percentage against all other opponents is 85.4%. So he's just money against Cincinnati.
All right. Can't wait to look at the all 22 on this one and talk more about it on Wednesday.
Yeah, so probably that's probably our recap analysis of this game until we see the all 22. Should be really fun. Like, for once, we're excited to watch the all 22 of this game more than we have been in quite some time. So any other thoughts here, Dave, or do you want to get to some reader emails and close out today's show?
Yeah, I think we can get to the reader email portion here. Let me sort them out here. We have Antonio Frazier writes in, as always, thanks for being the best place to get real Steelers news and analysis. I'm so excited to finally see the Steelers look like a real offense and like they have a plan. I'm not trying to get too high, but do believe this could be a turning point in our season. Do you feel that all this was because we played a bad Bengals defense, or was it really all about getting rid of Canada? Also, it looks like the Steelers had a good weekend with all the other teams losing. So do you think they have a real shot at being division winners? Thanks again for all you guys do throughout the year. Really help us understand the Steelers. You guys rock. All right. Thank you, Antonio. Look, this wasn't a great defense overall, and they were without Cam Taylor-Britt in this one, and you had Hubbard coming back from injury overall. But look, we've seen this Steelers team go up against some defenses and think they should have had better performance than what they had in this game. Now, without a doubt, this was Steelers beating Steelers in this game. So look, this is the NFL on any given Sunday. The way I look at it. So I'm not reading. I'm looking at the totality of what we saw this offense do and not do from schematics and mixing up tendencies and doing some of the stuff out of 2 and 3 tight ends and spreading the football around and at least 5 money throws that Kenny Pickett made in this game, and really a 6 when you include the drop to or whatever do you consider that a drop? Semantics, but
yeah, I mean. Yeah, what else would you call it? It's in his hands, and he did not complete the play. Whether or not it was ruled correctly is moot at that point. So yeah, I would call that a drop.
Long story short, Antonio, I imagine Alex feels the same about this. I'm not reading too much into quote unquote, as you list here, bad Bengals defense. That's the furthest thing from my mind, I think, coming out of this game here overall.
No, I agree. I mean, I think the Bengals, the numbers may not show it. I think it's a talented Bengals defense. There are some real talented guys, especially that front seven. And listen, the Steelers have been a bad offense, and so it's not like it's the Eagles or whatever beating up on some crappy defense. Okay, that's one thing. But when the Steelers have been miserable and can't get out of their own way and can't make plays to see that and then make some plays, I'm not gonna put the asterisk next to it really at all, because Pittsburgh has struggled against good defenses, bad defenses, etc. To see them play, their most fluid game of the season, I'll take it.
His other point: do you think this could be a turning point in our season and win the AFC North? Look, I mean, Baltimore won again Sunday night. They do, I think, have a couple of tough games coming up and all like that. And here's the other thing. This as bad as this offense has been, the Steelers team went into yesterday's game with a 6-4 record. They're 7-4 now. They still have not played their best offensive game of the season yet. Or it feels like they could play better on offense at this point. Obviously, need to try to find a way to put up more than 16 points. I will say this coming out of week 12 of the NFL season right now. It will be an absolute shame, surprise, whatever you want to call it, if this team's not in the playoffs.
Yeah, they should get there. I don't think they win the division. I think Baltimore's got a pretty good stranglehold on that. I know that Pittsburgh will see them again in week 18, and we'll see what happens, but I'm pretty confident the Ravens will be AFC North champs as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy. It's kind of this time of year where he's gotten hurt, so hopefully he stays healthy for their sake. Will it be a turning point for the season? It's hard to say. It is just one game. The schedule is favorable. You're facing a Cardinals team that's 2-10 up next, and so at home that's going to help. No guarantees, of course. I'm taking it game by game right now, to be honest with you.
Mark Miller writes in, one score wins that are sustainable. Like most of Steelers Nation, I'm absolutely thrilled right now from a fan's perspective. Boy, we've ridden some roller coasters this year, haven't we? With this season. From a fan's perspective, my issue with winning close games was never the problem. It was seeing that we were winning in spite of the offense, not because of anything that they were doing. You can't win when it counts if the only real positive is no turnovers. Sunday's score looks the same, but man, it was completely different feel to the game. Kenny made better decisions, looked more comfortable. We were able to overcome negative plays to sustain drives, and frankly, the players didn't become disinterested when the ball wasn't coming their way early, he writes. This team, Sunday's team can beat anyone on the schedule and go toe-to-toe with anyone in the playoffs. They are building to the future. I honestly think 12-5 is on the table, and if we continue to progress, I'm not afraid to face any team in the playoffs. Look, on the AFC side of things right now, at least from where it stands, here's the thing. Buffalo's just been very, Buffalo has gotten some things straightened out. They're turning the football over at wrong times. Kansas City, they've got some straightening out to do on the offensive side of football. It still feels like Baltimore Steelers have obviously know what they're getting and have had success against Baltimore the last couple of years, and Lamar Jackson specifically. I don't want to get way too far out there. Look, this team needs to make sure they get in the playoffs first and foremost, and we see what Miami is doing on top of left them out in all that there. Does it feel like there's I see where he's going here, and I don't want to get too far out because we go from 1 week thinking this team, to reading emails, this team's awful, fire everybody, to getting emails like this. We're absolutely thrilled right now. This team needs to build on what they did offensively against Cincinnati. You got games coming up against the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Colts, and look, the Colts are playing pretty decent ball right now. But you look at these games right now that the Steelers have left, and you got Cincinnati again, obviously without Burrow. Who the hell is Seattle right now? And then you end the season with Baltimore, and that game might, for all we know, be insignificant to Baltimore come that time. Just win these games you're supposed to win,
Yeah, take care of business week by week. I'll pump the brakes a bit on kind of the we want Bama talk. Like, there's still a lot of good NFL teams out there. The Pittsburgh's going to have some severe challenges against scoring points and trying to keep up in more, offensively minded type circumstances. But I'm happy with where things were at for this first game. Have to build upon that. Pittsburgh still has to cut down on mistakes and play that complete game, which they have not played a complete game, really all units all season long. But it's a step in the right direction. Now the question is, can you build off of it?
I tell you what, you keep holding teams under 20 points on the scoreboard, you're going to, whoever the team is, obviously you would think it'd be a little bit tougher to do in the playoffs here, but you hold a team under 20 points right now. You got to think even, the Steelers can old-time Steelers, from by what I mean is earlier in the season, pull out a couple of, maybe pull out a W that way. But just be grateful we saw some of the positives that we're talking about in this game, even though they only scored 16 points overall. The things that we're talking about, 8 of 17 on third down, 421 total net yards, 68 offensive plays. Boy, you gave Tom Meade the shaft this week.
It's about time, Tom. I needed a break. 41 plays for me. I was more excited about 41 plays to chart than I was anything else out of this game.
153 net rushing yards, 268 net passing yards. A lot of things to be excited about. Time of possession, 37 minutes, 17 seconds. You can watch it up to probably 2 episodes of Seinfeld almost with that time of possession there. Thanks for the email, Mark. Let's go forward.
And I would just say they're now 7-1 this year in one possession games. 7-1.
Cam Rogers, let's see here. No, that's a span. That's a different kind of question here. Nathan Casey writes in, am I crazy to think that Trent Thompson is at worst our third best safety and should keep his spot regardless of when Neal comes back? No, you're not crazy, Nathan. He goes on to write, he makes tackles, he breaks on the ball, he is a keeper. I think he should keep his spot in rotation to start the rest of the year with Casey being the third safety. I think there's a decent chance of that, Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, Neal's still out a couple more games, and Thompson will kind of use this as an audition to see what he can do and continue to stack positive performances. I think he will start next week if Minkah comes back. I think Casey will go into that more rotational type role. So if Thompson keeps playing like this, so when Neal comes back, he may maintain a spot for sure.
Andrew has a flex scheduling question. Any idea when the Colts game day and time must be finalized by? Me and the core Steelers group are going to the game, but the NFL is making it impossible to plan the actual trip. I know it's 28 days on the Thursday night.
Yeah, there was a to be announced, I think, with the time on the Colts game. I'm seeing 1 o'clock shown though on Pro Football Reference for the Colts game on December 17th.
As I don't want to speak out of turn here and talk about when they have to make a final decision on the time and day of that game, but I know it's 28 days on the Thursday. You would have to think it's a couple of, I don't know the exact answer on this. Maybe you can Google that real quick, Alex.
Yeah, it's still, let me see. In terms of time, yeah, the Steelers official site does not show a time. It just shows to be determined. So I don't know if PFR is accurate with their 1 o'clock time. I'm not entirely sure when those things have to be announced.
Hunter Higgins writes in, hey, David Knox, what a game. I don't think Kenny is fixed and the jury is still out on him being the guy. But the number one thing I noticed about his performance versus Cincinnati was a quarterback with confidence. He looked like he got some of his mojo back, hoping to see him string a couple of high confidence games together. Look, it's not that I don't think that Kenny's been lacking confidence overall. I just think that, I think is a lot more decisive, and as Alex talked about, getting rid of that football, when he's hitting the back of some of these drops, and obviously they mix things up a little bit, schematic, overall. But I mean, point taken there. I'd like to see Kenny string a couple of these games where he's making these third down conversions and making those throws down the field and all like that. I mean, it was definitely a lot better than what we've seen as of lately out of Kenny.
Yeah. Now the question is, you got to build upon that. You can't have, regression, especially against some more favorable teams. You're facing the Cardinals and the Patriots, not exactly the most talented teams in football. Not that you ever take anything for granted, especially for this offense. It's still a team still trying to, figure things out and put things together. But you would expect Pickett to continue to play well.
He writes, do you think Eddie Faulkner still had a lot to do with the play calling? Seemed that way as he had the play sheet all game and was always right on top of Sullivan. No, I don't know for sure, but I just think that the two of them were just trying to stay in concert together. He was trying to follow along with the play sheet of what's being called there. And I think Eddie said, ahead of the game that, just going to, him and Sullivan were going to talk in between series and all that kind of stuff there. But I think he just let Sullivan go and he might have had a suggestion along the way within all that. But I don't think, I don't view Eddie having a heavy hand in play calling at all.
I agree. I think Sullivan was the guy actually choosing and calling the plays and making those decisions. They would collaborate entering the game, and the play sheet, as you said, was him just kind of following along to stay in tune with what was being called and maybe offering a suggestion here and there. How about after the game? Kenny Pickett saying Sullivan called a hell of a game. Don't think he ever said Matt Canada called a hell of a game.
Let's go here to Todd. Writes in, great AFC North win. Really shocked to see the team surpass 400 yards. First game Canada's gone. Question is about Diontae Johnson. He really gets in his own head at times, and it substantially limits or affects his play. The play everyone will be talking about is him essentially walking up, blah, 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 totally giving up. Jalen's fumble. He could have at least tried. Okay, he's stating the obvious here. But he never made an effort. He goes on to say, I know he wants to win, but he's starting to stack up incidences of involvement and altercations with other players. This goes back to last year, scuffle with Mitch Trubisky. He was clearly animated after last week's loss, resulting in an altercation with Minka. This is long. That's why I'm trying to fly through it here. What is your take on him? I really question whether he's a team player or a me first guy. I know he's valuable, but his selfish attitude. Look, I get the gist of this, and we talked about it early in the game. There, yeah, he needs to keep himself out of the limelight when it comes to some of these things that we're talking about. We were already going to be talking about the unfortunate situation in the end zone there, but he gave us more to talk about because of the run backwards, and then the way he reacted on the play with the fumble there. If he can eliminate those kind of things there. Now, look, to his credit, and we tried to make sure we took both sides of the coin here, it didn't throw him in the dumpster for the rest of the game. You know, right. And we're not trying to gloss over what happened early in the game there, but at least he bounced back to make a couple of plays in this game. Yes, he needs to, as he puts it, substantially limit these other kind of things, and we don't need to be talking about him after games, either altercations or getting on social media and all like that. Man, just go do your job and take it to the house. And give us less of these other things to talk about in games.
Yeah, as you said a couple of years ago, he wouldn't have bounced back. He would have just continued to spiral in game and not made some of those plays he made in the second half. You know, I really don't know how to. I understand the concern. I get that, but like, what do you do about it right now? He's playing. He can be an asset when he's on his game. He's going to be your starting receiver. You know, we'll deal with any sort of offseason talk in the offseason, but right now we're in season. Johnson's your guy. Hopefully he just is able to make some plays and minimize some of these, as you said, kind of distractions and other non-receiver type stuff.
Because look, like it or not, coming out of this game with the win and all the positive that we saw on offense, Diontae Johnson's going to be a talking point this next week, right?
Right. And thankfully it was a win because it becomes much less of a talking point. Winning really cures and masks and covers up a lot of this stuff.
Here's what I try to do if I'm Mike Tomlin. You know, obviously you're going to have the teaching moments in the film room and all like that. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I pull them aside and say, look, draw the line in the sand right now. Don't give them anything else to talk about the rest of the season here. You know, let your positive actions on the field speak for themselves moving forward. And the further that other stuff gets in the rearview mirror, hopefully it gets further in the rearview mirror.
I agree, but I feel like that conversation has probably happened before. So
I haven't again, though.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Just win. We'll just win, and it'll cure a lot of these ills.
Like Adrian said to Rocky in the hospital, come here. Win. You know, just win. And then that's
the first Rocky.
I think that's the second one when she's.
I think I've seen the second Rocky.
Oh man, how can you not? That what a hell of a scene in the hospital there when she says, "Come here," and Rocky leans over and he goes, "What?" And she goes, "Win." And then that's when the music, dong, and then Mickey says, "What are we waiting for? Take us." You know, what a boy that you cannot watch that scene without getting goosebumps, have the hair on your arm stand up. Even to this day, what you got to watch. You have not sat and watched. Look, now you get past Rocky 3. Yeah, you know, they can have the rest of those movies, but those first 3 Rocky movies, you got to make that your goal this offseason, Mr. Lack of movie guy. You got to watch uncut versions of Rocky 1, 2, and 3 on a Saturday afternoon.
I watched Rounders this weekend. Does that count?
Yeah, that's a good movie. Very good movie.
I don't have to watch Rocky now. You set the scene so well. I feel like I was there. It's Rocky, the one man played by Dave Bryan.
Yeah.
I want to see the whole release.
Yeah. Yo, Alex. But back when those movies were obviously big when I was a kid, and boy, I could sit there and recite just dialogue after dialogue of those 3 movies. But man, that scene in the hospital, you gotta re-cue that one up. What a great scene that is. Brad writes in, hello, David, Alex. I just wanted to ask, is Trenton a possible fit to play along? Another question about Trenton. here. Look, we pointed out after that game last week, I thought he played well against the Browns overall. Very unfortunate that he didn't get that interception in that game, but he has represented himself well right now. Maybe they do have something there.
Yeah, and again, I think even in camp, we noticed he had a really good camp, a really strong preseason. The guy that was deserving of a practice squad spot.
Good on special teams, wasn't he?
Probably, I can't remember on that aspect. He probably was making some plays there, but he's worked up the ladder, and it's almost a little Robert Spillane-like, where you just kind of get on the practice squad, hang around, and then work up the ladder. Didn't have the special teams impact that Spillane had, but just kind of hang around and make some plays and wait for your turn and take advantage of it.
All right, I think we got through the bulk of them here. I think we're about an hour and a half on this.
Yeah, so we'll come back Wednesday. No live stream tonight. That's just our normal schedule. We had one last week, so come back Wednesday through the All-22. I believe it actually just dropped, Dave. So I know we're both diving into that offense together.
All right, we'll do it. And we'll talk about what we see on Wednesday and start working towards the Arizona Cardinals game in week 13. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Find the ad-free button. A lot of great content. Some film rooms going up on the site. Alex's Stats of the Weird is fantastic as usual. So we invite everybody to swing by SteelersDepot.com over these next few days as well, too. So until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.